This perp back with another video, and I just got done checking out the movie Mr. Harrigan's Phone. This is a brand new Stephen King adaptation on Netflix. This is a PG-13 movie, keep that in mind. This is directed by John Lee Hancock and starring Jaden Martelli and Donald Sutherland. Now, this will be just my quick take on this movie, and y'all let me know how y'all feel about this movie if you got around to watching it. What really drew me to this film is the fact that it's a Stephen King adaptation, so I said, hey, why not? But I do not like PG-13 horror movies. There are far few in between that are actually good and decent. The premise of this movie was interesting, but I think really fell flat. And let me explain. So you have the character played by Jaden Martelli. He plays Craig, and he's narrating throughout this movie, kind of giving you the backstory on what's going on, how did he get to the place that he's at now, talking about he moved out of his town of Harlow. He's been kind of hired by this dude, Mr. Harrigan, to pretty much visit him on the afternoons, spend some time with him, and just read books. And the concept in the beginning of this film is really interesting to me because it starts off with Craig and Mr. Harrigan just reading books and just trading information. And I thought the books that he was reading with him are kind of giving him clues to some type of dark secret that Mr. Harrigan is kind of looming or just kind of hiding. That was not the case. And I'll get into that. That's one of my gripes of this movie. But the use of technology is interesting, and just the way that we get our information compared to the books now to these smartphones. And it's not every day that you get stories that are centered around the first iPhone, which I thought that was a really interesting kind of draw, but ended up kind of losing the appeal, and it just became like product placement after product placement, and a lot of things felt heavy-handed and a little bit forced as far as how things get kind of set up in Craig's high school. You know, this was really weird too. You had them kind of break down this lunch table scene where you had people that had razors sitting at one table, and then all the people that had the brand new iPhone sit at one table. And I think that could have been portrayed better. Like, it got to a point where they did kind of like a time skip, and we see where they're at once the iPhone 4 comes out, and how everybody is like looking down at their phones at this point in 2010, and this is really where the smartphone era kind of boomed. Now you're probably thinking, like, what does an iPhone have to do with this whole entire story? So as he continues to visit Mr. Harrigan, something ends up happening to him where he's no longer in the story. He has this will. He puts Craig in this will, and he gets like a $800K, which is crazy. I'd have been gone. And he obviously puts that money towards his schooling and whatnot. But after Mr. Harrigan kind of like leaves the story, things just start to kind of go downhill very fast for the story, and that's where it starts to kind of really lose me, because the first like 40 minutes, it was intriguing. I was like, I'm liking this build up. You're making us care about these characters, but then the tone of this movie just kind of flip-flops a lot to where it doesn't really know what it's trying to do. And you'll see what I mean when you watch this, because there are other characters, like there's this bully. I've seen him before in other movies or TV shows and whatnot. He kind of reminds me of Torbo from Hey Arnold. Anyways, his character is really lackluster. There's something that ends up happening as Craig starts to still talk to Mr. Harrigan after he dies or after he passes away. He left his phone because he bought him an iPhone. There was this whole thing, but he left his phone in his coffin, so he always is talking to him to kind of pretty much vent. But every time he goes to vent, something weird starts to happen. A character might die, like one of the bullies. Something might happen to him, and then another person that he really likes ends up kind of dying in a free accident, and then he gets more upset. It almost felt like the phone was a Death Note. If you've ever seen Death Note, definitely highly recommend you guys go check that show out. Phenomenal. And it's just like, y'all waited like an hour and some change to finally kind of get into some creepy stuff. That's where this movie kind of lost me, where it's built up to be kind of like this creepy horror thriller, but there's really none of that throughout the movie. It's not even creepy, it's not even scary, it's just one big kind of waste of time. And it's unfortunate because, like I said in the beginning of the movie, they have some really interesting setup, and then it just kind of loses the plot halfway through. And you're just waiting for the movie to just be over, but it just keeps dragging on, and I'm just wondering, like, what is the point in all of this? And I guess the message is, like, we're always going to, be a slave, I guess, to our technology. I don't know what they were trying to go for at the end of this movie, because, like I said, it starts off one way with this whole how we get our information, where it used to be like we used to look to newspapers. Now everything is thrown into this device where you get all these different informations. And I like that whole conversation he had earlier on in the film, talking about like this is going to ruin humanity pretty much. It just falls flat because I just don't think this movie really has an identity that's clear. It doesn't have a clear cut story that will keep you engaged. I think it just is one big waste of time. And I can't really say I recommend watching it. Unless you watch it and you get a completely different experience and you actually enjoy it, that's cool too. But me, I just felt like I wasted an hour and 40 something minutes of my time with this movie. Let me know how you guys feel about it in the comments below. Till next time, I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.